When World War II began, Germany entered the conflict with one of the most modern and battle-tested air forces on Earth. This is the story of every major German aircraft used during World War II: fighters, bombers, transports, reconnaissance platforms, and experimental machines that reflected both the strengths and fatal weaknesses of German air power. Section 1. Early War Fighters. Gaining air superiority. Messerschmitt Bf 109. The Bf 109 was the backbone of the German fighter force. Compact, fast, and heavily armed for its time, it entered the war as one of the most advanced fighters in the world. Early variants dominated the skies over Poland, France, and the Low Countries. However, its limited range became a critical flaw. During extended operations, especially over Britain, the Bf 109 struggled to escort bombers deep into enemy territory. Despite this, it remained in production throughout the war, evolving constantly as Germany attempted to keep it competitive against newer Allied fighters. Messerschmitt Bf 110. The Bf 110 was designed as a heavy fighter. It carried multiple cannons, heavy machine guns, and had the range to escort bombers. On paper, it was formidable. In practice, it proved too slow and unmaneuverable against single-engine fighters. During the Battle of Britain, it suffered heavy losses. Rather than abandoning the aircraft, Germany repurposed it. The Bf 110 became a night fighter, equipped with radar and heavy armament, where it found a second life hunting Allied bombers in darkness. Heinkel He 112, often overshadowed by the Bf 109, the He 112 was an early competitor for Germany's primary fighter role. Though capable, it lost out due to production complexity and political decisions. Only limited numbers were built, and it saw minimal combat use. Section 2. Dive Bombers and Close Air Support. Junkers Ju-87 Stuka. No aircraft symbolized blitzkrieg more than the Ju-87. Designed as a dive bomber, it delivered pinpoint accuracy against enemy positions. Its distinctive siren was intended to terrify troops on the ground. In the early war, the Stuka was devastating. Enemy air defenses were weak, and German air superiority allowed it to operate freely. As the war progressed and Allied fighters became more capable, the Stuka's slow speed and poor defensive armament made it increasingly vulnerable. Henschel He's 123. The H's 123 was an older biplane design that surprisingly remained effective. Rugged and reliable, it excelled at close air support on the Eastern Front. Its ability to operate from rough airfields kept it in service far longer than expected. Section 3. Medium Bombers, the core of the Luftwaffe. Heinkel He 111. The He 111 was one of Germany's primary medium bombers. Initially disguised as a civilian aircraft, it evolved into a versatile bombing platform. It carried out strategic bombing, Maritime strikes, and troop transport missions. Though effective early on, it lacked the defensive firepower and speed needed to survive against improved Allied fighters later in the war. Dornier, Do-17. Nicknamed the Flying Pencil for its slender fuselage, the Do-17 was fast and agile for a bomber. It was widely used during the early campaigns in Europe, but quickly became obsolete as air defenses improved. Dornier Do-215, an improved development of the Do-17. The Do-215 offered better performance and equipment. However, it was produced in limited numbers and never became a major force within the Luftwaffe. Junkers Ju-88. The Ju-88 was one of the most versatile aircraft of the war. Originally designed as a bomber, it was adapted into a night fighter, reconnaissance aircraft, and ground attack platform. Its adaptability kept it relevant throughout the conflict, making it one of Germany's most important aircraft designs. Section 4. Heavy Bombers and Long-Range Strike. Germany entered the war without a true four-engine strategic bomber force. This decision reflected Luftwaffe doctrine, which prioritized tactical and operational support rather than long-range strategic bombing. Still, several aircraft attempted to fill that role. Heinkel He 177 Greif. The He 177 was Germany's only operational heavy bomber. Designed to meet impossible requirements, it combined long-range, heavy bomb loads, and even dive bombing capability. To To reduce drag, engineers paired 4 engines into 2 coupled units, an engineering decision that proved disastrous. The result was chronic engine fires, mechanical failures, and constant maintenance issues. Although the HW-177 eventually became operational, it never reached its intended potential and arrived too late to change the air war. Focke-Wulf FW-200 Condor. Originally designed as a civilian airliner, the FW-200 was adapted for maritime patrol and long-range reconnaissance. Over the Atlantic, it became a deadly threat to Allied shipping, spotting convoys and attacking unescorted vessels. Early in the war, it earned the nickname Scourge of the Atlantic. However, structural weaknesses and improved Allied air defenses limited its effectiveness as the war progressed. Section 5. Night Fighters and Interceptors. As Allied bombing intensified, Germany shifted focus from offense to defense. Night fighters became essential to counter British and American bomber streams. Junkers Ju-80 8-night fighter variants. Modified Ju-88S formed the backbone of Germany's night fighter force. Equipped with radar, heavy cannons, and upward-firing guns, these aircraft hunted bombers under cover of darkness. Their adaptability made them effective even as Allied countermeasures improved. Heinkel HE-219 UHU. The ET-219 was one of the most advanced night fighters of the war. It featured onboard radar, heavy armament, and ejection seats, an innovation years ahead of its time. In combat, it proved highly effective against Allied bombers. Despite its success, production was limited due to internal politics and resource shortages. Messerschmitt ME 262 night fighter variant. Late in the war, jet technology was adapted for night interception. Modified Me 262S attempted to counter mass bomber formations with unprecedented speed. While technically impressive, fuel shortages and pilot training issues limited their impact. Section 6. Ground attack and anti-tank aircraft. Close air support remained a core Luftwaffe mission throughout the war. As Allied armor became more prevalent, Germany developed aircraft specifically for attacking ground targets. Henschel HS-129. The HS-129 was purpose-built as a tank killer, heavily armored around the cockpit and armed with cannons, and even a 75 gun in later variants. It was designed to survive ground fire while destroying armored vehicles. However, underpowered engines and limited maneuverability reduced its effectiveness. Focke-Wulf FW-190 ground attack variants. Originally designed as a fighter, the FW-190 was adapted into a ground attack role. With heavy armor, bombs, and rockets, it became one of Germany's most effective low-level strike aircraft. Its rugged design allowed it to operate under intense fire. Junkers Ju-87G. The Stuka returned in a new form. The Ju-87G replaced bombs with twin 37 cannons for anti-tank missions. Flown by skilled pilots, it proved capable of destroying armored vehicles, though only when air superiority could be maintained. Section 7. Transport and airlift aircraft. Germany's rapid advances early in the war relied heavily on air transport. Aircraft were used to move troops, supplies, and evacuate wounded across vast distances. Junkers Ju-52. The Ju-52 was the backbone of German air transport. Slow but reliable, it carried paratroopers during airborne assaults and supplied forces in isolated positions. It played a critical role in operations such as the invasion of Crete. Later in the war, Ju-52s were pushed beyond their limits, supplying encircled armies. Messerschmitt Me-323 Gigant. The Me-323 was a massive transport aircraft. Developed to move heavy equipment, it could carry tanks, artillery, and vehicles. However, its slow speed and vulnerability made it easy prey for Allied fighters. Despite its size, it symbolized Germany's growing logistical desperation. Section 8. Reconnaissance and Maritime Patrol. Information was as valuable as firepower. Reconnaissance aircraft gathered intelligence, tracked enemy movements, and guided naval operations. Blum and Voss BV-138. The BV-138 was a long-range maritime patrol flying boat. Operating over the North Sea and Atlantic, it conducted reconnaissance and convoy tracking missions. Its distinctive twin-boom design made it instantly recognizable. Erido AR-196. The AR-196 was a ship-borne reconnaissance aircraft. Launched from battleships and cruisers, it scouted ahead of naval forces and attacked small surface targets. It was one of the most successful seaplanes of the war. Section 9, trainers, and secondary aircraft. Behind every frontline aircraft stood an enormous training infrastructure. Germany relied on a wide range of trainer and utility aircraft to prepare pilots for combat, conduct liaison duties, and support rear area operations. Booker Bu 131 Jungmann. The Bu-131 was one of Germany's primary flight training aircraft. Simple, forgiving, and highly maneuverable, it trained thousands of Luftwaffe pilots in basic flight skills. Its reliability made it ideal for mass pilot training during the early years of the war. Booker Bu 133 Jungmeister. More powerful and agile than the Bu 131, the Bu 133 was used for advanced training. It prepared pilots for the demands of fighter aircraft, emphasizing aerobatics and precision flying. Arado AR-96. The AR-96 served as the Luftwaffe's standard advanced trainer. It introduced pilots to more complex systems and higher speeds, bridging the gap between training aircraft and frontline fighters. Fieseler Phi 156 Storch. The Phi 156 Storch was unlike any other aircraft. Designed for short takeoff and landing, it could operate from extremely small, rough fields. It was used for reconnaissance, liaison, medical evacuation, and command transport. Its ability to land almost anywhere made it invaluable throughout the war. Section 10, gliders and airborne assault. German airborne doctrine relied heavily on gliders. Unlike powered aircraft, gliders could deliver troops and equipment silently and precisely onto objectives. DFS-230. The DFS-230 assault glider carried infantry, engineers, and light equipment. It played a decisive role in early airborne operations, including the assault on Fort Ibn Email, where German paratroopers achieved complete surprise. Gotha Go 242. Larger than the DFS-230, the Go 242 was designed to carry heavier loads. It transported vehicles, artillery, and supplies during airborne operations, though its vulnerability limited its later use. Section 11, jet and rocket aircraft, technology ahead of its time. As Allied air power overwhelmed German defenses, Germany turned to revolutionary aircraft designs. These machines represented the future of aviation, but arrived too late, in too few numbers, and without sufficient fuel or trained pilots. Messerschmitt Me-262. The Me-262 was the world's first operational jet fighter. Faster than any Allied aircraft, it could outrun and outclimb enemy fighters with ease. Armed with heavy cannons, it was deadly against bomber formations. However, mechanical unreliability, fuel shortages, and Hitler's insistence on using it as a bomber severely limited its effectiveness. Messerschmitt Me-163 Comet. The Me-163 was a rocket-powered interceptor. It achieved astonishing speeds, but had extremely limited endurance. After a brief attack window, it became a glider, vulnerable to enemy fighters. Its volatile fuel made it as dangerous to its pilots as to the enemy. Heinkel HE-162 Volksjäger. The HE-162 was designed as an emergency fighter. Built quickly using non-strategic materials, it was intended to be flown by minimally trained pilots. While fast, it suffered from structural weaknesses and rushed production. It symbolized Germany's desperation in the final months of the war. Section 12, experimental and unconventional designs. Germany pursued numerous experimental aircraft projects. Many never reached operational service, but they revealed the direction German aviation might have taken had the war continued. Horten Ho 229. The Ho 229 was a flying wingjet aircraft. Its design minimized drag and radar signature, concepts far ahead of their time. Only prototypes were completed before the war ended. Blohm and Voss BV-141. The BV-141 featured an asymmetrical design. The cockpit sat offset from the engine, providing excellent visibility. Despite good performance, it was rejected due to unconventional layout and production concerns. V-weapon launch aircraft. Several aircraft were modified to carry and launch V-1 flying bombs. These platforms extended the reach of Germany's revenge weapons, though they could not alter the strategic situation.